Every now and then we check in with Dr. SYLVAIN Charlebois because we both like chatting with him because he knows so much more about food than any of us normal people do.
He does. And I try to get him to convince you to not eat old rotten things from the back of your fridge.
And he said that's fine if you don't die from them.
No, he did not say that.
Did he not say that?
No, but he did say that you can test the limits on expiry dates. And I told him not to tell you that because you already test the limits.
Thank you.
But today we're going to talk about sticker shock. Well, it's not actually sticker shock. It's quite the opposite. But I was thinking about how sticker shock at the grocery store really isn't anything new at this point, right? Like, it's every time you go, you're going to be doling out a whole lot of money to get the stuff you're used to buying. So are you noticing perhaps that you're avoiding certain products or buying those mass-produced commercial names thinking it might actually help you save a few bucks? That might not be the case. It turns out you can buy local without breaking the bank. And the food professor, Dr. SYLVAIN Charlebois, looked into this. I know. So hello, SYLVAIN. Nice to talk to you today. You should see Aaron's face right now.
I just assumed that off the get-go.
You sound like an old married couple, but anyway, yeah, it's nice to be with you guys.
Yeah. You have to be the mediator here, okay? Aaron had the reaction immediately, SYLVAIN, that basically if you're buying local, it's going to automatically be cheaper. And I think we think that with, like seasonal produce because it's there and it doesn't have to travel farther.
Exactly.
But that's not necessarily the products we're talking about here. Or is it? You tell us. Tell us a little bit about the findings of this study.
Well, working with Aliments Quebec, we actually designed a Québécois food basket with 134 items in the spring and 100 for the fall. So over 6 weeks, we basically compared those two baskets with comparatives coming from elsewhere, anywhere outside of Quebec. So we were assessing competitiveness essentially, only to find out that in the majority of the case, the Quebec product was actually quite competitive. Not necessarily always cheaper, but very competitive. And in some cases, the Quebec product was in fact cheaper. But in the majority of the cases, the Quebec product was very competitive, or were just a few cents above a competitive product coming from abroad. So we were pleasantly surprised by results for both the spring and the fall. In the spring, the threshold was 74%. So 74% of the time, the Quebec product was either more competitive or as competitive as the product coming from elsewhere. And in the fall, that percentage went down to 55%.
Okay.
So, look, again, I'm making that face because I would think, correct me if I'm wrong here, transport plays such an important part in the eventual cost of a product. Obviously, the less distance it has to travel, the cheaper it should be. Is that too simple sort of an equation?
It's a factor. You're absolutely right. It is one factor of many, of course. So there's lots of things that you have to keep in mind. So often companies in Quebec are not advantaged by economies of scales, because if you basically, let's say you deal with a company out of Mexico or California, they're likely producing way more. It's all based on volume and low margins. And so that company or those companies would have, oil farms would actually have a competitive advantage over some operations in Quebec. But you're absolutely right. If transportation becomes an issue, well, short circuits, so products coming from closer, could actually have an advantage. So it really depends on the category you look at. We actually did exclude some volatile verticals like produce, of course, because prices fluctuate so much, and you're always a drought away from seeing, a cycle just getting hijacked by a drought or a flood or something. So, but we did look at apples, for example. In Quebec, apples are incredibly cheap. They're incredibly affordable. If you're a fan of Spartan, if you're a fan of Cortland, Macintosh, they're always cheaper than products coming from abroad.
Now, I mean, to some degree, I would expect that, right? Like, as we said, they're grown here, they're produced, they're not traveling far, they're going to taste so great, and the price is low. But some of the things that you looked at here really surprised me, like yogurt, like peanut butter.
Yeah, well, dairy Dairy was surprising, but let's be honest here. There's not a whole lot of competition, so we had to pick a few, and the few were specialty items coming from elsewhere. So, but yes, dairy. Often we always say that dairy is very expensive, but it's actually not bad. A lot of Quebec products are very affordable.
Okay, and then the sausages, fish. Like that surprised me as well. I mean, where are we getting fish from locally here? I can't even think of a fish producer in Quebec.
Well, there's Gaspé and different places. Again, fish and seafood. Actually, I have to say, because I go to Montreal quite often, you guys have access to really affordable seafood compared to here in Nova Scotia, and we're surrounded by the ocean here. And so, because in Quebec, what's happening in Quebec, I think, is that fish and seafood, especially lobster right now, it's used as a loss leader. Lobster is very affordable in Quebec.
It is.
And so I would certainly take advantage of that.
Yeah, it's affordable for the first 2-3 weeks when everyone's selling and trying to get into the market. Then I think after that it starts to rise, which
it
is
doubled.
what you'd expect,
so it was
right?
$7.99. You know, Brian does his grocery basket, and he was pricing it at about $7.99.
Have you noticed strawberries is the opposite?
Yes.
Quebec strawberries are very expensive at the beginning. Then afterwards, after a couple of weeks or maybe 1 or 2 weeks, like right now, strawberries from Quebec are very expensive, but they will get cheaper as you go through the season.
You should get together with the lobster cartel. It would make sense to
explain
do the
this.
same.
Is this just a supply and demand? They're new, and so people want them, the fresh crop? Why is that, Sylvain? What's going on here?
It's just a cycle, and frankly, it's really about quality. I mean, I was picking strawberries when I was a kid in the Montérégie, and I can tell you, strawberries early in the season are much bigger, juicier, nicer. As you go through the season, they get smaller. Quality's not that great, and so that's a factor. So you want to sell. If you're a grocer, you want to move your product as much as possible. Price will dictate the flow.
All these things that I'm learning, I thought the deal with strawberries was, you see some of them, they're like nuclear strawberries.
And they have no flavor.
And I thought, you don't buy those, you buy the smaller ones because they're sweeter and actually have more flavor. You're basically suggesting the opposite?
Depends.
Well, yeah. I mean, the market actually really likes large strawberries, juicy strawberries, not the small ones. Yeah.
Huh. And then I think Go ahead.
So you're the exception. So I would wait it out, and you get access to really cheap strawberries you actually like.
Well, no, I say that because my girlfriend will tell me, you know what, those giant ones, they don't look like normal. They're not organic, number one. Number two, who knows where they're grown to get that big, but I don't know how accurate or not that is.
Oh, the products coming from abroad. I have to say, I mean, if you actually eat strawberries from California, they do get big. They are big, and their shelf life is actually very long, but they don't taste anything.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Totally.
Strawberries in Quebec, they actually taste something, and that has to do with how ripe they are when they're harvested, and they're green. So while they're being transported, they actually get more red,
right?
But they don't get the taste that you would get from a local strawberry.
Oh, Quebec. I'm literally, my mouth is watering right now.
Local.
So I guess that's the moral of the story here, right, Sylvain, is that I feel like we want to buy local in so much that we know that it's the more responsible, ecological, environmentally friendly thing to do. And yet we're kind of put off sometimes thinking that it's going to cost us more. Your findings are that is not the case.
That's right. Now, we need to be realistic here because food inflation is an issue for everyone. Like, last week, the Bank of Canada decided to raise rates again. People are putting more money to make sure that they keep a roof over their head. You can't trade down on shelter, so people are trading down at the grocery store. So that we need to be honest with ourselves. And so when you're out there shopping, don't push aside local products until you actually compare prices. That's really what the study is saying. Is that if this myth that really gets us all to believe that local is more expensive is not necessarily true.
Okay. And I think the last thing I just want to ask you, it sounds like we fare a little bit better in Quebec than elsewhere. For
2 reasons. One, I actually think that the MAPAC and your minister, André Lamontagne, they're doing a pretty good job ramping up production. There's more Quebec products being produced, so more volume will actually bring down prices. And the other thing that I find in Quebec compared to other provinces, it's much easier to find Quebec products at the grocery store. Mm-hmm. Labels are pretty clear. You got the logo Aliments du Québec. They're easy to find. Those are things that you don't necessarily find elsewhere, whether in Ontario or the only province where I think could rival Quebec is BC. Other than that, we still have a long way to go.
Okay. Always so fascinating. Really enjoyed talking to you. Sylvain, thanks so much. We appreciate your time today.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Dr. Sylvain Charlebois, the food professor out of Dalhousie. Would you have ever guessed that I didn't ask you the question yet.
Well, I think I know what you're going to say.
What am I going to say?
That would I have guessed that some of those products would be...
No. Would you have guessed that seafood could be, in his opinion, cheaper, a better value here in restaurants than it would be out in the Maritimes in Nova Scotia?
It is surprising to me, and yet I wonder if our demand, it's kind of like wine. We do so well and cheese, right? This is the way we live in Quebec, right? We eat a lot of lobster, we eat a lot of fish, we eat a lot of cheese, wine. So maybe that's the thing, supply and demand.
Just figured you go out there, it'd be nothing to buy seafood or buy fish. It's not.
You would think.
Lucky us.
I forgot to get him to tell you to not eat things that have expired for 3 weeks in your...
No, that's okay. I'm sure there'll be a study soon coming out saying that's perfectly okay.